If you enjoy this video, please remember to subscribe if you haven't already. And if you like what you see on my channel and would like to support me on Patreon, click on the link below.
We're finishing, what is this, our fourth season?
I don't know, Gene. If you say so, it's fourth. It must be
Okay.
fourth. I will agree with whatever you say. Well,
First time for everything, huh?
CNN Headline News, I'm David Goodnow. The creative genius behind the Star Trek television series is dead. Gene Roddenberry died of a heart attack at a Santa Monica, California hospital Thursday. Officials say Roddenberry collapsed at his doctor's office before being rushed to the hospital. Leonard Nimoy, who played Mr. Spock in the series, said Roddenberry had an extraordinary vision about mankind. Gene Roddenberry was 70.
And with me this morning, Jonathan Frakes. He is First Officer Commander William Riker. Number one, right? And also Marina Sirtis is the ship's counselor, Deanna Troi. She's got all kinds of, she's a space age psychologist, but I think you've got special powers. Yeah. And Brent Spiner plays the part of Data. And you're a robot or an android. You're not human.
In my own life, I am.
But as Data, you are not human.
No, as Data, I am an android.
You are an android. Mm-hmm. He also is normally in makeup, which takes about, what, an hour and a half?
Yeah, hour 15.
We didn't make you do that this morning. None of the gold makeup.
I'm so grateful.
Does that stuff do anything to your skin because it can't breathe, or?
You know, I don't know what it's doing inside, basically. I think one day they're going to find my organs. Roaches in my organs are going to be the only things left after a Holocaust.
Walking around in that stuff all day long, it's just, it's a pain. It really is.
But he endured it and even played other characters that called for him to wear more makeup.
It's like having basically your head covered in plaster. It's very claustrophobic.
Joining us now, three more members of the cast. LeVar Burton, who plays Lieutenant Geordi LaForge, Chief of Engineering, a blind man unless he's wearing those high-tech visors to give him superhuman sight. Gates McFadden, who plays the role of the ship's doctor, Beverly Crusher. And Michael Dorn is a Klingon named Lieutenant Worf, Chief of Security. He's joining us without his special effects makeup, which takes, I'm told, 90 minutes to put on.
90 minutes.
Let's deal with the makeup questions right away. First of all, can you see very well in those?
That's the irony. I'm an actor playing a blind man who sees when he wears this device, yet when I put it on, about 80% of my vision is taken away.
You've got no peripheral vision?
I can't see this or this, so I used to bump into things.
I was just going to say, is he bumping into parts of the set at times?
Well, actually, no, he does.
Well, I got bumped into Gates.
Very well, yes. But then I have a big wig on, so I don't feel anything. I can just sort of hit the walls myself.
Well, you've actually got the lucky part of all this. Basically, you can put on the wig, the suit, and bingo, you're ready to go.
Yeah, there's no makeup at all for women, and yeah, but please, we are there an hour and 15, I have an hour and 15-minute call because to get all of this under a wig takes a little bit of time, and you know, whatever. But
and yours takes about 90 minutes?
Takes about 90 minutes.
I'm amazed that you can do it in that short an amount of time. We're going to be featuring that makeup job that Michael Westmore does.
It started out to be about 3 hours, but
they've been able to shorten it down?
Yeah, and I don't want to see when I get in makeup, so...
You just sort of nod off and let them do whatever they're going to do.
we have a pretty good chemistry, and we actually really get along very well. And most of our rehearsals are a bit like Monty Python, and then suddenly when the final action, the director is pulling out his or her hair, then finally we get serious and do our technobabble, because the show is very serious, and I think that's appropriate. It's a morality tale and all of that. But you know, I often, instead of playing Dr. Beverly Crusher, play Dr. Marilyn Crusher and do the whole thing like Captain, you know, like it lets off steam to sort of clown around and be irreverent during rehearsals.
She sits there so real fine and drinks herself half blind.
Fun seems to be the operative word on this set.
At the Copacabana. Everybody! The hottest spot north of Havana. At the Copacabana.
We're maybe a quarter through the day, halfway through the day, and I'm having all kinds of fun.
I think I have become a marginally better listener as a result of playing this character, because it's one of the things that Captain Picard does quite well. He's very good at paying attention to others, and asking for and listening to other opinions. I mean, it's one of the characteristics that set him apart from James T. Kirk.
He intrigues me. This Picard.
In what manner, sir?
Remarkably analytical and dispassionate for a human.
When I announced at a couple of Star Trek conventions that I, as Spock, would be appearing in an episode of The Next Generation, I was hit by a wall of emotion and sound. A wall just came at me, like a roar of approval. And I realized that my appearance in The Next Generation was going to be a sort of a healing of a family schism.
Shake!
Return fire.
Sir, they damaged our power systems. It's caused a subspace surge within the subspace pulse.
I got a call from my mom, and she said, look, Star Trek did this little script, and they want to know if you want to come back. I had been under the impression that they really weren't interested in having me come around anymore, you know, and I was kind of bummed because I really loved the people here, you know. The cast was like my family when I was in high school. I've used a differential pulse to scan over 10 million quantum shifts.
Will sort of grew up with us, so he's been a member of the family for 7 years, and it's always good to see his smiling face again.
This is what it's about. I mean, for me, this is what acting's about, having a good time and feeling good about your work, you know, not that other stuff that sort of drove me out of the industry.
Any one of us can go away and come back or whatever, but we're still family, and you can see that when, you know, as you said, when you go onto the set.
Like the original series, the feature films, and The Next Generation, Star Trek Deep Space Nine is based on Gene Roddenberry's unique vision of the future, a popular legend that has endured for over a quarter of a century. From roots of that historic legacy come the adventures of a new set of diverse characters who continue to encounter new civilizations and explore the ever-changing human condition within a science fiction format. The time is the 24th century, the same era of Star Trek The Next Generation. The title refers to a remote alien space station located at the furthest reaches of the universe, near the mouth of an incredible gateway that can instantly transport travelers light years across the galaxy.
We were talking about a series that was going to run concurrently with The Next Generation. We obviously couldn't place our characters on a space station. I mean, on a starship, on the Starship Enterprise or something like it. So we decided to come up with an idea where the adventure, the stories, the strange worlds that we encountered came to us as opposed to us going to them. And what we decided to work with was a space station in a very remote part of our galaxy that was positioned very close to a newly discovered wormhole, a shortcut through space that could take people in a matter of a few seconds to a distant quadrant of our galaxy, an area that would take 60, 70 years to go at normal warp speeds.
In this series, we set out to create a situation that would provide natural conflict. That natural conflict comes from a number of different sources. In this series, we are set on an alien space station, so immediately on the Enterprise, where you are on the state-of-the-art, most comfortable environment you can possibly think of, in this environment, it is the most uncomfortable place you could possibly think of. Things don't work right, it's not up to our specifications. Chief O'Brien, who is one of our characters, is constantly trying to make this thing work, and this is always disappointed about it. So we're uncomfortable there.
Basically, my role here is I'm the kind of like the chief engineer of the whole the station. I kind of try to, and because the thing is in such a mess, it's a kind of a sleeves up, down and dirty kind of job, because you got to get everything fixed and up and running again. It's like, and because my character, because O'Brien is married and has a child, it becomes like there's a a familial thing there, which is kind of familiar to a lot of people today, in that it's like one career, you know, you got a husband and wife situation, both with careers, that one career sometimes takes precedent over the other.
I imagine I get along with most of the occupants fairly well, but the Federation has this probably slight problem with me. They probably think of me as repugnant, although I think of myself as charming. They probably think of me as reprehensible, although I know I have a code of ethics. And but they need to deal with me because I'm a leader of the community and I'm a capitalist.
I had been a fan of Star Trek from the very first pilot episode of the original. Watched it in syndication for many years. was very eager to be on Next Generation, and am still astounded 5 years later after the show is over that I was on it at all. But sort of like any fan who loves a show and then all of a sudden finds out he's a series regular on it, it's a fantasy come true. You know, one of the great things in my life is, as I said, I was a huge fan of Star Trek. And today, except possibly for Mr. Shatner, who I don't know very well, all of the series regulars on the original show are friends of mine. I can call them up. I can have long, deep conversations with them. You know, we see each other not regularly, but often enough. And when I take a step back and realize that, you know, I'm friends with Leonard Nimoy, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Star Trek is not a show about the 24th century. It's a show about Gene Roddenberry's idea of what the 24th century is, which is quite unique. It's like, for people like me and the others who have worked on the show, it's like learning a foreign language. You learn about Gene's idea of what the future is like and what mankind is like and what the world is going to be like in his future. This is something that I have been carrying on as Gene's involvement with Star Trek lessened over the last 4 years. I am totally confident. I can go to bed every night very comfortable with the fact that Gene would be very proud of this television show.
After 7 seasons, 176 episodes, and 16 Emmy Awards, it was almost over.
I'm asking you to make a leap of faith.
I'm going to miss the laughs. I'm going to miss going on the bridge and having your stomach hurt from laughing at the absurdity and the abuse that we heap on each other.
I'll kill you, Michael. I'll kill you. I'll split you down the middle, man.
I have a certain amount of sadness, too, and it's mostly connected to all of the people that I worked with here, cast, crew, producers, staff, and so forth, because they are simply the grandest group of people I've ever known.
So was it a little kind of a strange TV series to be working on? I mean, you were androids and all these things?
Well, I think the strangest thing about it was we were on sound stages all day with no windows and, you know, for 15 to 18 hours a day, and we all sort of went mad in the process, which helped things in the long run.
And you have said before that you weren't really a big science fiction fan, and here you end up on probably the most popular sci-fi story in history.
Well, that's true. I was more of a Lucy fan, and there was very little chance I was going to wind up on that show.
So this is a living. That's how it started out. Hey, sounds like a good job. But
Great
did
job.
you have any idea it was going to last for 7 years?
No, I assumed when we began it would be a one-year experience.
Really?
The show was sold for a year, and I was like everybody else. I thought there's no way you can do another Star Trek. And 7 years later, I'm eating my words.
I'd like to think that taking on the role of Picard in Star Trek 7 years ago was accepting some of the risks, because I had my life very carefully planned out, and it didn't include coming to California to do a TV series.
Warp 1, engage!
But I know that at the same time I could not have been content with myself had I said no to that. I had to taste it and find out what it was like. It was the right decision to make.
They said, we're going to make movies with that cast, and we're not going to use you guys anymore, because, well, you know, you guys are getting older, top-heavy with salaries, and we're going to make a transitional movie.
And to make the transition final, the studio was going to kill off Captain Kirk.
And so you can come and die or not. I decided to die. Pay was good. Try to get a good scene in there, a dying scene.
Well, the news is out now. You guys killed Captain Kirk. Why did you decide to do that?
This is our writing process. One of us is standing and walking, the other one's writing. And we sort of trade off as we get tired. And I'm walking and doing, and this happens, and then that happens, and then Kirk says his final line, and then Kirk dies. And I just, suddenly it just sort of hit me that I just sort of killed a childhood hero.
It appears the century-spanning captains of the Enterprise got along famously on and off the set. And it appears that William Shatner has no problem leaving the helm of the Enterprise for good this time.
Don't let them promote you. Don't let them transfer you. Don't let them do anything that takes you off the bridge of that ship, because while you're there, you can make a difference.
Some of the fans, they heard that you died in the end and all this, and they're all upset.
If you think they're upset, how do you think I feel?
Do you have any emotion at all about it? I mean, you know it's a movie.
None, I'm okay.
So fans might want to vent their anger about his death on the film's villain, Dr. Soren, and the actor who plays him, Malcolm McDowell.
They say time is the fire in which we burn.
The thing is, what sort of gets me a little bit ticked off is the fact that they don't care whether it's any good or not. They don't care about the artistic intent, whether it's good or whether it's indifferent or whether it's bad. They just get on to this Trekkie treadmill, and you know, hey, get a life. You know, get involved in the artistic intent of it, and you know, if it's good, then fine, support it. If it's not good, walk.
Fans of the TV series will be thrilled to see that Data has a major role in the film. He is, after all, one of the next generation's favorite characters. And actor Brent Spiner has some good reasons why.
I think Data is a particularly accessible character.
You could say, I have a magnetic personality.
Humor! I love it!
Data's reaction to his new emotion, Chip, is truly one of the most entertaining and amusing aspects of the generation's film.
Oh, yes! I hate this! It is revolting!
More?
Please.
The laughing scene, not to give anything away, that was 2 days of laughing. I laughed for 2 solid days, take after take after take. And pretty soon, nothing's funny, you know? And certainly as far as the crew was concerned, I stopped being funny about 10 minutes into it.
Her name is Terry Farrell, and she plays the Trill symbiote Dax on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Boring to look at this dialogue. It's always a new creature, a new alien, a new situation that we're in. I mean, the station's in jeopardy.
Can we gain any time by moving the station?
If the rift collapses, the implosion would overtake us almost immediately. I think what's nice about it is to have, I don't know, a traditional job that would be for a man. It gives my character more, I have more room to explore everything. Instead of going from being feminine to have to be masculine and take control of a situation, I can take control and be sensitive about it.
2 new incarnations are now beaming simultaneously onto American television. First came Deep Space Nine, set on a frontier space station. 2 years on, Paramount launched the latest Star Trek, Voyager.
I have no doubt that its popularity will diminish at some point. Perhaps it's already diminishing. I don't know. I'm much too immersed in it. I hope not, but I think it's only natural because that's how things go. They become very popular and then people get sick of it and it wanes for a little bit. But something tells me Star Trek's going to be around for a very long time. A, because it has been around for 30 years, and B, because it's so elegant and simple a premise.
Red alert!
Came up with 3 major premises that were different. One was that was a female captain. One was the whole idea of these Maquis, these rebels. And the third is to take the ship and to take its crew and to fling them to the other side of our galaxy.
We're still dealing with the same optimistic future, but we've thrown our people off into a place where they're alone. So without the support system, without the ability to call for help, without the advice of Starfleet, they are back to basics.
Back to basics, but with a groundbreaking captain, played by Kate Mulgrew. She replaced Geneviève Bujold just weeks before shooting began. But Kate had little trouble stepping into Janeway's jumper.
It was total ownership, or it was nothing. And it emanated really perfectly naturally from me. And then I sort of looked around and everybody was going, I think we might actually have something to do here next week.
Often actors grope for their characters. It takes them, if not a few episodes, sometimes a season to really sort of try things and test it out and see who they are. These people, for whatever reason, knew instantly who they were and what they were about. Any Star Trek episode, I would say, is the hardest kind of writing I have ever done. The demands are extraordinary. It is a well-crafted, thoughtful, intelligent human drama.
First Contact came around. Sherry Lansing, who was the president of Paramount at the time, had said to Rick Berman, who was our producer, it was in his hands as to who was going to get to direct the film. It was decided that it would be someone from in-house. And at this point, I had done probably a dozen episodes since the third season, and I threw my hat in the ring, hoping, obviously, that something would come of this. And God bless him, Berman and Sherry Lansing and Jonathan Dolgen, who was the CEO, said, let's have Frakes do it. And it changed my life. It was my first movie. It was a huge success. And it's all because the script was spectacular. And it was, I always saw it as my job not to screw it up. It was a very exciting experience. And we were able to pepper comedy in it. It was just a script. And I mean, it's a cliche to say that if it's not on the page, it's not on the stage, but in this case, it was absolutely true.
It has been so much fun to be back. I must say, it just got better and better, and when we finally hit the bridge, it's like no time has passed. It could have been last week or last month that we were doing this as the TV show. It's the same feeling.
It hasn't been that much of a reunion for the cast because we see each other all the time. And it's fun to have the characters hang around each other again, too.
It is an intriguing sensation. A most distracting...
Yes, I'm sure it's a fascinating experience, but perhaps you should deactivate your emotion chip for now.
Good idea, sir.
The new members of the cast were surprised by the atmosphere on the set.
When you watch the show, you figure the whole cast, since it's such, a drama-filled show, that everybody would be really tense and really uptight and really straight, not even close. I mean, these people are the biggest cut-ups.
Mr. Hawke, pursuit course. Engage.
Cut! That's great.
An area in which I realized the difference between making a television show and making a movie was in a meeting I was having with the special effects guys. Terry Frazee, who ran special effects on almost all the Star Trek movies, big Hollywood effects guy. And we were talking about the bombing of that town where Jamie Cromwell and Alfred lived, where a lot of the movie took place. And I said, would it be possible maybe if we planted some M80s or something and we blew up like the gardens in the back of these houses? And he looked me in the eye and he said, Frakes, you're making a big movie. We're gonna blow up the whole town.
In their past voyages, the Generations crew has encountered the most lethal villains in the universe, from the Klingons and Cardassians to the evil Soren. But Picard and his team face their greatest challenge in the Borg.
They are a species who assimilate many different races. And through this assimilation process, they have become almost automaton-like individuals with no independence, no mind of their own.
Captain, they've adapted.
I am the beginning, the end, the one who is many. It's an entrance that I think I will never be able to top. Never again will I have such an entrance. I am the Borg. She's the fountainhead of it all. She's it. She's the intelligence that animates the Borg.
Creating a unique look for the Borg was the job of Academy Award-winning makeup artist Michael Westmore, who designed more than 100 alien looks for the next generation.
I tried to keep it in the world we know. There's a bit of humanistic quality in the alien races we run into. Hence, a lot of races are foreheads and noses and things because we can associate with them.
It was the combination of human and android qualities that Westmore brought to the look of the Borg.
The biggest challenge with the Borgs was trying to make them look more functional. As a machine, we'd put holograms in the eyes, LCDs in the eyes, blinking lights, just anything we could to give more action to the face.
The key to the Borg conquest lies with a man named Zephram Cochrane.
Let me just make sure that I understand you correctly. Cybernetic creatures have traveled back through time to enslave the human race. And you're here to stop them? That's right. Zephram Cochrane, he's a rocket scientist. And he's sort of a maverick, you know, a throwback to the 1960s. And he develops warp speed.
He represents to the post-21st century what perhaps the Wright brothers, the aviators, represent to us in the 20th century.
He's the guy who started the whole idea of our being able to travel faster than light, which means our being able to get to other worlds.
Zefram Cochrane is actually the guy who started Star Trek. And you people, you're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
Cochrane is played by Academy Award nominee James Cromwell, who had appeared in several episodes of The Next Generation.
When we were creating the character, we always had Jamie in our head. And then Babe came along, and all of a sudden he was nominated for an Academy Award, and we thought, oh my God, we're not going to get him. He's too big for us now. But because we had worked with him on a number of occasions, we were delighted that he did, in fact, take the role.